Okay, going to sponsors. 10 seconds away. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2.
Hi, I'm Eric Knowles, president of the Miami-Dade Chamber of Commerce, and this is our Member Connection. But before we get started, a word from one of our supporters.
We know there is nothing small about running a small business. Our dreams are bigger than the blocks we represent. Our goals make way for generations to follow. And
Look
our
nice.
imaginations outweigh all they said was impossible. Comcast Rise has provided $11 million in grants and services to 8,000 businesses in 590 cities. Because when one rises, we rise together. Apply for a chance to receive a $10,000 business grant from Comcast Rise and keep rising.
And welcome back to the Miami-Dade Chamber's Member Connection. And I know you're tired of me saying how excited I am about my guests, but I just have great guests, so I'm truly excited about having Miss Tracey Cabanis. How are you?
I'm doing great, Eric. Happy to be here.
Tried to make sure I didn't mess that name up.
You did a little bit, but
I know I did. I felt that.
Everyone does.
Pronounce it.
It's Cabanis.
How did I do that?
That's okay.
I said cannabis.
That's okay. Not to be confused with cannabis. So
Cannabis.
you did great.
And forgive me.
I'm happy to be here.
Cabanis. Where does that originate from?
Puerto Rico.
Okay.
Yes, my dad was from Puerto Rico.
Okay.
That's right.
Very cool. Actually, I don't know if I've heard that surname.
Yeah, I really believe it's probably be with an A at the end. You know how names change when folks come over to the U.S., but I'll take it. I love it.
Very good, very good. And so now talking about coming over to the U.S., you are kind of new to, not that you're new to Miami. I mean, you've been in and out of Miami, but you kind of made your way and have made Miami your permanent domicile.
Absolutely.
So tell folks a little bit about you and where you're from and where you grew up and those type of things.
Well, I was born and raised in Long Island, New York.
Okay.
But I'm what I call an IBM brat. My parents worked for the IBM Corporation, so we left New York, and I went to high school in Los Angeles.
Okay.
Which was a huge difference, but I absolutely loved it.
New York, Los Angeles.
To LA. And then I went to college in Atlanta, Georgia.
Wow.
And I went to law school in Houston, Texas.
Wow.
And then made my way here to Miami and settled, took the bar here and just loved it.
New York, LA, Atlanta, Houston, Miami.
Miami, absolutely.
That's quite diverse.
It is.
And I'm sure Miami is your favorite out of all.
Miami is my favorite.
So law school. And what prompted you to go to law school?
You know, I am the first one to graduate college in my immediate family.
Okay.
And when I was in high school, I had a social studies teacher whose husband was a judge, and she kept talking about her husband. And I asked her, well, what does a judge do? I want to be a judge. And she said, well, you should be a legal secretary.
Oh, wow.
And I said, well, I want to be a judge, so I'm going to be a judge.
Right.
Well, I found out I had to go to law school to do that.
Right.
Never sat on the bench because I really love working with clients, but really that's how it started. She told me I couldn't do it, and, well, I did it.
Well, that's one thing we'll learn about you. You're not one to let people say no.
No.
And, what type of law have you practiced? I know you've done a few different things, but what has been your specialty?
I have. The specialty for me has just been serving people at an advocacy passionate level, so it's not a particular area of law. But I started out here in Miami working for child support enforcement with the state attorney's office.
Oh, wow.
Advocating for parents who needed help from the other parent to raise their children.
Right.
Absolutely loved that job. And then I went on to work for the federal court here in Miami doing civil rights claims for prisoners who were, their civil rights, although they're locked up, were being violated. And I advocated for that for a while. So sort of that's how things go. It's like what's on my heart at the time. Right. And so then I went on, I did some corporate work, and it was great money, but it didn't serve me well. in terms of me feeling like I was really making an impact for people. After the recession happened, I realized that a lot of folks, including myself, were, faced with financial challenges, and things changed. Not even, it's beyond your control when something like that happens.
Right.
And I was meeting people who were losing their homes and, really facing challenges that they hadn't before. People were going through divorces and found themselves in bankruptcy and foreclosure. And I just started helping people on the side just know you can get yourself back on top, teaching them about credit and financing. And I have just a niche for that now.
Right. Well, before we get into that, the credit and financing, I want you to go back to the whole thing about advocating for civil rights.
Yes.
And I know that there are a lot of challenges for returning citizens.
Oh, yes.
When they come back. And obviously we're a chamber, and one of probably in a lot of cases the only way that they can take care of themselves is to start their own business.
That's right.
Because for whatever, we talk about checking the box, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
And so, getting hired by a particular company, and you definitely, in certain instances, can't get a federal job or a state job because of your background.
Right.
But talk about that a little bit, about restoration of rights and so on and so forth.
Yeah, it's very challenging for people to come to the land of the free and take advantage of all the things that this country has to offer when there's limitations on just who they are as a citizen. We folks have picked up the term legal alien, and that's incorrect. Folks are undocumented. And so the stigma with your residency being illegal, just really, it starts with that stigma. But in terms of, you have immigration, and then you have folks who come out and they are re-entering into society from being incarcerated, or, so you've got two types of folks who are trying to enter or re-enter society.
Right.
And it's very difficult. And honestly, the best way to be successful in those situations, both situations, is starting your own business, working for yourself, serving the community, usually your community, and that's their way into, actually being productive citizens.
Right. And then you're talking about, as I say, there's this Sting song, I'm an alien, I'm a legal alien. And as I said, you're not legal, you are undocumented.
Right.
And actually, I recall going to an event, a gentleman, he owned his own business. And we were talking about getting certified with the county, getting certified with school board, but he was undocumented. But he had his business, but he could not get certified to do business, et cetera. So what, from your perspective, and we've all been dealing with our former president,
Yes.
Build the wall,
Sure.
et cetera, et cetera. What do you say to those individuals that have been here, and some of them have been here since they were children?
Oh, I say, persevere. Do not give up. Do not let not just the big wall at the border, but the walls that are, built for education, built for housing. There are these walls that are within the country that are invisible.
Right.
But they really are a hindrance. And I say, Google wasn't around when I was coming up.
Right.
There's no way to not learn about how to, navigate this life now. You can find information, and get with good people. Even with the chamber, get with nonprofits and organizations who are there to advocate for someone like you, because there's something out there for everyone. But really work with networking, connections, and find your way to, getting into the productive world. You can do it.
Right, right. So we'll switch over to what you're doing now, which is a major how would I say, roadblock to advancing financially, advancing, buying a home, buying cars. You're talking about credit, and you deal. Let's walk through that whole credit piece that you work with.
Yeah. Well, like I said, folks don't really understand what credit is about and how it impacts their lives until you need it.
Right.
Right? It's only when you need it to get an apartment, to get a house, to get a job, to get car insurance.
And even bank now.
To get a bank account, right?
Remember, there was a time you could just go open a bank account.
Absolutely,
and
$25 and an ID. And
Right.
now it's not the case. You have to have some sort of scoring that another company says, you have a number associated with you, and that is your risk level to a financial
Right.
institution. But the thing is, growing up, I know in my household and in our community, we're told, don't mess up your credit.
Right.
Right?
What
Don't
does that
run
mean?
up. Don't run up your credit.
Right.
And we don't really know what that means.
Yeah, what does that mean?
Yeah, just like, you're told, get your education. Well, okay, so where do I start?
Right.
Well, if you go to college or as soon as you turn 18, these banks and salespeople are trying to give you a credit card, and it seems so exciting, but you don't realize that you're taking on debt.
Right.
And if you don't have enough money to buy something, then you really shouldn't put it on a credit card unless you have income that can help you pay it off.
Right, absolutely.
And so there's a lot of education now surrounding, what credit actually means, even for business.
Right.
To start a business, if you're not someone whose family can give you $1 million or $100,000 to start out, you have to have credit.
Right.
And it starts with your personal credit. You can't get business credit until your personal credit has been, used for a couple of instances.
Right.
And so it's just really difficult for folks. And like I said, until you need it,
Right.
you really don't know. And it's not something that can be fixed overnight. The credit bureaus are out there in hand with the banks. They make money from marketing to people who don't have good credit to give them products. They're really not here to help us get ahead with, just the basic things in life that we need.
Right.
So, for me, like I said, I started out helping someone who went through a divorce. I actually helped them do their divorce. And she was just out of sorts. And I said, no, just get through this and I'll help you build it back up. And that's when I realized folks out here just need to know where to start. Folks don't even know where to start.
Right. And again, I mean, you hear these stories about, and well, let me back up. Again, we talk about business, and during the pandemic, a lot of folks weren't able to access PPP. They weren't, and again, it's about having it in place before you need it.
Right.
We talk about, getting loans, and as a business person, you may not need the loan today,
Right.
but you never know what happens 6 months down the road.
Right.
So it's preparing yourself for what may happen, hoping that it doesn't happen. So talk about that a little bit.
Well, the stay ready so you don't have to get ready term
Right.
is really applicable there because, having all your affairs in order in every way, shape, or
Right.
form, so that when an opportunity comes your way, you're ready.
Right.
Or when a difficult situation comes your way, you're ready to take advantage of the little bit that you have, or in the case of PPP, the big opportunities to take advantage of funding and things like that. If folks don't have their paperwork, their taxes, all their information in order, you just can't take advantage of it.
Right.
And I learned that primarily because I did fraud investigations for a big bank before going back in the private sector and seeing how they're really not for the little person.
Okay.
They're for themselves.
And you talk about they're not there for little persons. Going back to this whole thing with the PPP, a lot of the major banks did not engage with the little person.
That's right.
But again, at the same time, the little person has to understand about building that relationship with the banks.
Absolutely.
And a lot of it was based on, well, I have an account at the bank, and that's all they had.
Right.
They didn't have a banking relationship. And so the fact that you said you dealt with fraud, talk about those relationships a little bit and how important they are.
Oh, they're so important. And we talk about back in the day a lot, depending on, it does, you can be 25 or 65. Things have changed so much with the internet and being able to open an account online. There was a time when you walked into a banking institution and they would say, "Hello, Mr. Knowles, how are you this afternoon?
Right.
How are your children? How's that business going?" And you had a relationship where by the time you needed something from them, they already knew what you were doing, what your goals were, what your family growth was, and now you are a faceless customer.
Right.
And so there's no reason to want to do something extra for you or give you extra information that folks won't have. Without that relationship, it's just virtually impossible. Unless, of course, you have these perfect numbers and things like that where they want you even more than you want their services. They're fighting over you.
Right.
But without relationships in general, it's just very, difficult to get ahead.
You talk about without those numbers, and, that's the one thing that always baffles me, but I understand it. When your credit score is not good,
Right.
you may get a loan, but the interest rate is going to be
Correct.
really high.
Very high. Right.
And then basically that really puts you again behind the eight ball because you're paying a lot more for money or whatever it is that you're borrowing. It's money basically,
That's
because
right.
either you're buying a house, you're buying appliances for your house,
Right.
you're buying a car. And again, if your credit is not in the 700s, 800, and I
Right.
think they even go
Yeah,
past 800
absolutely,
now.
absolutely.
I don't know how that happened.
Right.
But again,
Right.
I think that was to help push those folks down.
Absolutely. That's exactly why.
Yeah, so they pushed the credit. So talk about that a little bit, the fact that the ones who are the marginal and the least able to participate,
Right.
they get punished.
Oh, punished greatly. Like I said, these days now employers even look at your credit,
Right.
Because they want to see what kind of financial risk that you might bring to the company. Are you going to steal for them, steal from their customers, and things like that. So this number is basically just scoring you on whether you're a financial risk.
Right.
It's just as simple. Very similar to a criminal background check. An employer wants to know what sort of risk they're taking on with someone who has a certain type of, charge or reputation in the court system. So with this, you can get denied simple things like car insurance or
Right.
get higher rates for car insurance.
Right.
Trying to just get an apartment. Let's just not even talk about the house. Somebody comes out of college or whatever, their trade, they want to go get an apartment. They see $99 to move in, first month free. But the caveat is if you do not have stellar credit, 720 and up, then you don't get the $99 move-in. You don't get the first month free. In fact, you probably have to put down more
Right.
than the person who on paper looks like they're not a risk.
Right.
And again, folks don't realize that until it's time for them to move in. Money is no longer king or queen. It's credit.
Well, this has been great. The time, I tell you, when we start these conversations, it goes by so fast.
Yes.
What would be your departing words?
My departing words will be, if your credit is not good, take small steps and make it better. There are people out here to help, and do not be discouraged. Take it one step at a time.
And how can someone get in touch with you?
Oh, they can get in touch with me by email at help@attorneytracey.com. That's help@attorneytracey.com. And my office number is 954-399-6800. Call, text, email. I am here to help.
Tracey Cabanis.
Yes.
Well, thank you. And if you want to learn more about the Chamber, go to www.m-dcc.org or call the Chamber at 305-751-8648. Today, I stand before you, a proud graduate of Miami-Dade College and the 5th president of the Miami-Dade Chamber of Commerce. I'm honored to return to the college that prepared me to become a leader in our community, providing an education second to none. So I'm asking you to please tune in every Monday at 12 noon to the Miami-Dade Chamber of Commerce's Member Connection as I interview members of the Miami-Dade Chamber of Commerce on our Facebook page at Miami-Dade Chamber of Commerce or our YouTube channel, Miami-Dade Chamber of Commerce. To learn more about the Chamber, please go to m-dcc.org or call the Chamber at 305-751-8648.